thank God my job is not dependent on how I look, because
Yeah.
that is so much pressure and so
Yeah.
exhausting and can result in harming your physical health through disordered eating or
Yeah.
steroids or other performance enhancing drugs, as well as impacting mental health and the constant posting and viewing yourself from an outside view versus
Hmm.
inside view. That's what I start thinking about and try
Yeah.
and help others see when that comes up.
Hey, fans and listeners, welcome back to another episode of the Female Athlete Nutrition Podcast. I'm here today with a guest, Hannah Silva Breen. She is a PhD student in sport, exercise, and performance psychology, as well as a clinical mental health counseling master's student at West Virginia University. She's completing her counseling internship at SCUD, Sports Psychology, where she is a therapist as well as a mental performance coach for athletes of all ages, from recreational to elite competitive. Hannah's research and clinical focus is in weight stigma, body image, and disordered eating in sport. Hannah, thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
I imagine you're very busy as a PhD student. You're involved in a lot of things and probably working just
It,
all the time.
yes, literally all the time, but I wouldn't have it any other way. I love keeping busy and doing multiple things all at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah. And your work at SCUD Sports Psychology, I mean, that's your job. So that's separate from your PhD, correct?
Technically, it's kind of both. So
Oh, okay.
I'm completing my counseling internship for my counseling degree right now. So so that's kind of what my hours at Scotty works for, but then also, it's still my job and my day to day, and planning to still, once I do get my degree, get my licensure hours through there as well.
Okay, great. I said SCUD, Scotty. You told
That's
me how to
okay.
pronounce it too, but it's just,
It's a
I
hard
don't know.
one.
SCUD sounds really fun, but
Yeah,
so it
I've
is
heard it
somewhat
many ways.
combined. Yeah. Well, and this happens a lot, of course, when I was getting my master's in sports nutrition and also doing my internship to become a dietitian. A lot of things overlap, which is good
Mhm.
because there's only so many hours in the week.
Right.
So that's wonderful. Well, I know at Scotty there's mental health counselors and performance psychologists kind of
Yes.
almost offered as like two different services. And I
Mhm.
was just wondering if we could kind of talk about that of like what maybe the difference between performance psychology versus mental health counselors are.
Yes. It's a great question, and not one that many athletes and clients really understand, because it is messy. There isn't
Yeah.
always a clear kind of defined line. There are sometimes, but other times it's a little blurry. And so mental performance coaching or consulting, however you want to phrase it, we really focus, if that's our sole focus, on sport and how we're
Mm.
thinking and feeling is impacting our sport performance, as well as how maybe our sport performance is impacting our thoughts and how we're mentally preparing or reflecting on performance. And so we're very kind of present moment and future oriented. We
Mhm.
still might talk about the past to understand, like, what is your sport history? What's your relationship to sport? Past accomplishments, past, perceived failures, how that's impacted you to where we are today. But then mainly we're learning mental skills, learning how to set and follow through on goals, prepare for performance, improve our performance sometimes in that kind of lane.
Mhm.
Whereas mental health therapy for athletes, we might do all of that, and we can talk about, you know, your your boyfriend that just broke up with you and how that's impacting you, or family dynamics and what your childhood was like. maybe if we're learning, you know, body image strategies, if we're under the mental health umbrella, we can also talk about like, what's your relationship with food? Have you had an eating disorder in the past? Are you experiencing one? Can we
Mhm.
process and treat that at the same time? Whereas the mental performance is really concrete and looking forward. Mental health can kind of look at and explore all the things, not just in sport, which is why I really like working with athletes kind of with both, where
Yeah.
I care a lot about the mental health side and an athlete's well-being. And once that's at a good level, now let's bring in the mental performance because the mental performance isn't going to improve much if we're not feeling supported or strong with our mental health as well.
For sure. Your mental health is the foundation, and then you can focus in on the sports performance piece and applying those tactics of game day or, reducing anxiety, all those things.
Right.
At the same time, that big picture mental health is sometimes such a big one to tackle.
No, sure.
And that I can see some people maybe I'm not comfortable enough yet to talk about my family dynamics. I just wanna know how to focus on the game, and so maybe they're,
Right.
step into counseling with the sports performance piece first, and then maybe when that opens them up, maybe so I can see people going at it from wherever you start is wonderful, right? But I totally get what you're saying of,
Right.
like, the total mental health is so important in order to be in a good place as a human being and an athlete. I'm just as you talk, I'm the dietitian, so I always draw the parallels with nutrition and
Mhm.
same thing with like total nutritional health matters in order to be a good athlete. But then we have our sports nutrition where we might just focus on like hydration, pregame meal, what are you having during, what are your electrolytes like, your carbohydrates, and just focus on like that day, that game, that moment. And sometimes that's great because you see those quick wins of like, "Oh my gosh, I just felt so
Yes.
energized and I wasn't sore after that workout there." So you get kind of those quick wins of immediate feedback of I had a good practice, I had a good game because I made these sports performance specific changes.
Yes.
But also, like, we need to make sure that our total nutritional health is good, like, on a daily basis, a monthly basis, like, that bigger picture as well. We need to know how to cook and prepare our own food and not just, eat sports gummies right before the game. So, yeah.
Right. Right. And that piece about this might be an athlete's first experience with mental performance, mental health. That I think that's a big benefit of the mental performance side too, is
Mhm.
athletes because there's I mean, we've made a lot of progress, but there's still stigma around therapy and mental health.
Oh, yeah.
And so athletes getting in on the mental performance side can feel a little safer and
Yeah.
learning because the process can look similar, like building that relationship with the provider, building that rapport, feeling open enough to share, whether it is just about a game, those experiences you're feeling can help open the door to, okay, maybe I am willing to seek some mental health support now. So
Yeah.
that's why I really like and appreciate just the mental performance side too sometimes because it helps open that door and build that bridge across.
Yeah. What do you think some of those stigmas are that we still need to combat as to, why getting mental health help is still so hard for people?
I think in sport especially, it it's viewed sometimes as a crutch mistakenly of kind of, oh, well, this athlete, said she's really struggling today and needs a mental health day off. Like she's lazy or she's not as committed. And those narratives can still permeate throughout sport within teams, within programs. And it's this fear, a very valid fear for many athletes to not want to be judged or treated differently than their other teammates. And because sport is so unique in that we don't really see that as much outside of sport because, well, one, legally, you can't get fired from your job for saying you're going to see a therapist.
Hmm.
But in sport, you you do kind of run that risk of maybe you're not getting cut completely, but you're not getting playing time as much, or you're not getting the same type of feedback from coach if it is
Hmm.
kind of a toxic situation. So I think that's kind of the unique stigmas that we still see in sport that are improving, and we don't see that everywhere, but still
Yeah.
exist somewhere.
Yeah. And I think from some of my own, drawing from some of my own personal experiences, I think another stigma that is everywhere, but maybe even heightened in sport culture is athletes generally are pretty confident people.
Mhm.
They view themselves and want others to view them as strong and capable and confident. And there's a lot that sport has done to get them to that place.
Right.
And then admitting that, oh, something I might need help in this area is the stigma is that it's perceived as weakness.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, again, for anybody, they can struggle with being perceived as weak. But I think for athletes, it hits even harder. It's like, no, this is my identity to be strong, to be capable, to be able to do it myself, to get the job done type of mentality. And so to
Right.
know that, oh, this is a weakness or I'm not strong in this area, I think is another sticking point that's really hard for athletes to accept, and they fear that judgment of other people. And again, that's drawn from some of my own personal experiences.
Right. And and it has worked for them, right? So it's like I don't
Yeah.
wanna risk something new because even maybe if I don't feel confident, faking this confidence or doing it on my own and being independent and strong
Mm,
has gotten to me to this point, has gotten
yeah.
me to starting varsity or playing in college or
Yeah.
professional or to the Olympics. And how I tend to kind of go at that is like, absolutely, it has helped you. And we're so happy for that.
Hmm.
And think about maybe how much further you could progress and how much
Yeah.
comfortable and confident you could feel by trying something different, which is scary.
Hmm.
And different is uncomfortable. And most people try and avoid it. And because of that piece too, I try and emphasize that that's where strength and confidence comes in trying something new and being
Yeah.
willing to be uncomfortable. Just like in
Hmm.
practice, when you learn something different,
Hmm.
you're gonna mess up and it's gonna be
Hmm.
hard and uncomfortable, but that doesn't mean you're doing something wrong or that you
Wrong. Yeah.
can't. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. I love viewing it in that way, just that different angle of actually this is strength in order
Mhm.
to accept that I can try something different.
Yeah.
Mhm. Amazing. So, how did you get into all this? I know you were an athlete yourself. You played basketball, so share a little bit about your journey as a basketball player and how you came to have this personal interest that led to your now, PhD and career in psychology and mental health focused on athletes.
Yeah, for sure. So I played every sport that was available when I was little growing up. I really enjoyed, playing football at recess with the boys, very much self-identified as a tomboy, loved sports. Then as I got older and some of that pressure to specialize, playing year round and getting better at one thing started to creep in.
Mhm.
I really focused in on basketball, being like, "Oh, this is the one I'm, like, sort of good at." The others,
Mhm.
I have lots of fun, but I'm not as good, so let's focus on this, and that's it, which
Yeah.
worked out for me because I did end up still loving it, and played through high school. However, the summer before my senior year, I tore my ACL, as
Mm,
many, many female athletes do at some point. And it was at that point where I was deciding, do I want to play in college? Do I want to try this recruiting process? Am I good enough to play in college? And now I have this injury, a 6 to 9 month recovery process. What is
long
that going to
recovery.
do? And
Hmm.
what is that going to do to my identity, my self worth, my future, and my body?
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
that was a lot to handle as a 16, 17-year-old girl.
Hmm.
And I was lucky enough. My mom is a therapist. She was a pastor, became a therapist. So mental health is very much emphasized and supported in my house. So I was really lucky enough to have support in that way, but it still didn't feel like people really understood. I didn't feel like anyone totally got it.
Yeah.
Or I would hear the phrase of like, well, basketball isn't your whole identity, or
It's not everything.
it's not everything. And to a kid and a teenager, it's like, yes, it is.
Yeah, it is. I know. Yeah,
It
it
is.
actually really
Um,
feels that way. Yeah.
right. And so although I had actually a fairly good support system and was really lucky and all of that, there was still that piece missing that
Hmm.
I think I really would have benefited from. And so it got me interested. As I did end up going to college, I I really wanted to blend psychology, which I had always been interested in because of my mom and seeing therapy in that sense, but bringing in this sport piece. I wasn't even sure if that was a a field or career that was
Yeah.
possible. In fact, it was almost impossible to find a college I wanted to go to that had sports psych. And I
Oh,
went
yeah.
somewhere that didn't. So I did a double major in psychology and exercise physiology, tried to blend the
Yeah.
2, didn't work very well. And because of that, I really wanted to do more and learn more. So I did end up going to grad school at the University of Minnesota for my sports psych master's. But before that, I got rejected from all the grad school programs I was looking at in college. So it was kind
Mm.
of left to, what do I do now? Which led me to a job at the Emily program, which is an eating disorder treatment facility. And I was working at the residential facilities. So I was supporting clients in meals, groups, leisure time. And I really found that that is what sparked my interest. And I started
Yeah.
to learn more about my own relationship with my body through that work at the Emily program,
Mm.
which is what inspired me to want to get the mental health counseling side of it too. So
Yeah.
that has led me to where I am today.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you mentioned, like, with your ACL injury in high school, like, so many questions of what does this mean for my identity? And even what does
Mhm.
this mean for my body?
Yep.
What's gonna happen to it? If I'm used to training and now I'm injured and I'm not training, I'm used to eating while training. Now how do I eat when I'm not training? So you had those personal questions, and then there you are
Mhm.
at the Emily program dealing with clients that are struggling with that. And it's
Yes.
it's so interesting how sometimes you don't even you view yourself you can view yourself differently. Like, oh, so and so is dealing with XYZ, and maybe we don't view ourselves that way. And then we get to talking to those people and we're like, oh, I see a lot of similarities. And it helps your own relationship with body, food, sport, and mind. And I guess I'm
Mhm.
saying this again, even from my own perspective, over the years of being a sports dietitian for other female athletes, I can honestly, truly say that when I started supporting female athletes, I was confident in my nutrition, in my sport, in my body.
Yep.
And I think that's important to be in a good place personally before you start trying to help others.
Right.
I was in a good place. But I look back and I'm like, I'm in such a better place now because the work of helping other people
Mhm.
and kind of understanding how the mind works, how these relationships work, then you do your own self-reflection. You try not to do that on your client calls because it's about your
Right.
client. But, later on, you're reflecting and you're like, whoa, and so the way that even my own journey, I did share something with a client the other day because we were talking about breaking food rules. And I let them know the last one that I broke because I was like, it was when I was working as a dietitian. I'm like, I thought I was good. I didn't think I had food
Mhm.
rules. And then as I was like counseling a client, I got to self-reflecting and I was like, oh crap. I'm holding
Mhm.
on to something, right? And so I had to challenge myself in the same way that I challenged and encouraged and guided my client. And so anyways, it's a great to hear that you were working there helping other people, but that strengthened your own relationship and with food and body and mind, and therefore helped you pursue that higher level of training and education that you're going through now.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's exactly right. I was doing reflecting when the
Yeah.
dietitians were doing their like nutrition groups and I was sitting there supporting. I'm like, what? Like I learned so much. I was
Yeah.
like, wait, like sugar is just broken down to glucose, like no matter what, like then we just need like all of that to support our I was like, whoa, like this is
Yeah.
crazy. And breaking down those food rules that I didn't even realize I had, like just like you
Mhm.
said. And but then we would have some athletes at the Emily program. I mean, it was for everybody.
Yeah.
And so we'd get a few athletes and I would see the difference that those athletes were having in treatment. Specifically, kind of, we would teach or try and teach intuitive eating, all foods fit, you can have dessert, all of these things. And they would get often stuck in, yeah, that's great, but I have to go, play this game or run this race. And like,
Yeah.
I can't just eat whatever.
Right.
Like, help me in that aspect without leaning into the eating disorder. And
Right.
there wasn't as much support
Yeah.
for them that I
Yep.
saw. And so that's also part of why I really wanted to work with that population in particular. Like,
Because
okay,
there's a nuance.
exactly,
Mhm.
exactly. And
Mhm.
all foods can fit for athletes, but if you would just ignore their questions or try and push against
Yeah.
the true valid concerns they have,
They're
we're not
valid.
we're not gonna reach them and we're not gonna help them as much. So
Mhm.
yeah, that was when it really clicked as far as, okay, this is the population and this is kind of the issue that I really wanna help them with.
Fans, I'm pausing the conversation again to check in on you. Are you concerned that you have REDS? That's relative energy deficiency in sport. It's a syndrome of not ideal health consequences and performance consequences that all stem from the idea that you're not fueling optimally or fueling enough for your sport needs. I've become an expert in this over the years because, unfortunately, a lot of female athletes struggle with this. We have research that shows sometimes up to 90% of female athletes might be suffering from at least one of the side effects of REDS. Other research says that up to 45% of female athletes are struggling with disordered eating. These are big statistical numbers, and I don't like it. I'm here to help you become fierce, fit, and fueled. So first and foremost, head to lindseycortez.com/REDS to learn more about REDS, listen to past podcast episodes, and take our free REDS quiz to see if this might be a concern for you. From there, I've got 3 ways to help you. 1, download the REDS Recovery Guide and start taking action right away. 2, join our REDS Recovery membership. For a very affordable $15 a month, you will have access to me as a sports dietitian to educate and empower you to fuel better. We meet once a week for live calls, Q&A. You have access to the recordings if you can't join live, and a community group chat to support, encourage, and motivate you along the way to fuel fiercely. Last, spots are limited for one-on-one help, but I can help you personally through one-on-one coaching be it my fast track program, the Female Athlete System of Transformation, or perhaps Fuel School, depending on your age. All of that is on my website, lindseycortez.com. But because one-on-one spots are limited, I really want to encourage you to join the Reds Recovery membership. We live in a world where it's very easy to just pop online, read an article, listen to a podcast, and I think we do a decent job at getting information out there, but we all need someone to talk to and really ask those personal questions, and also be open and honest in a community that's going to support you in your fueling needs and goals. And that's exactly what this membership is. So only $15 a month. We meet once a week, and you will be provided with so much education and empowerment and support. I know you won't regret joining. Head to lindseycortez.com/Reds, and there you will see the Reds Recovery membership that you can join, and join us this week. It's time for you to be fierce, fit, and fueled. Yeah. And to follow up on some of your personal experiences, since your personal sport involvement was like basketball, so, ball sport and more of a team sport. And I think because we're going to get to focusing on body image in a moment here, but, there's a lot of sports that have maybe a bit more of a weight bias or weight emphasis, like wrestling, you
Mhm.
know, combat sports, or a bit more of an aesthetic pressure like gymnastics, figure skating, being judged, or uniforms in and of itself. Beach volleyball
Right.
uniforms are traditionally very small
Yep.
to say to
Say the
say
least.
yeah, and versus, there's some other sports where it's like, okay, in softball we wear full-length pants. In basketball, it's traditional to have looser fitting shorts. I'm not saying that there still aren't concerns. Okay, in basketball, this is a team sport. It's not all based on one player's performance or judgment,
Right.
but I'm interested in your both professional and personal experience as a basketball and team sport player. Like, how much where are these issues still present of body image, or the disordered eating, those concern, and the mental health, as well as the pressure and correlation between those things? Are those still present? Is it a different experience?
Mm. Really good question. And I think it's similar and different, like, at the same time, depending on
Mhm.
the sport. One, because like you highlighted, a team sport, research has shown, like, team sports working in groups can lead to more positive sport experiences, but that doesn't automatically mean that will happen. It
Mhm.
doesn't also mean that we're gonna be free of diet talk, body talk, body image pressures, especially now with, when I played basketball, our shorts were past our knees, really baggy. Our jerseys
Mhm.
were really baggy. Now, part of that was because we didn't have uniforms made for women. We were using the
Yeah,
male hand-me-downs, but that was
which is
also the
also a
style.
problem. Mhm.
Right. But that was also the style, whereas now we're seeing kind of coming back to an even older trend of the shorter shorts, more form-fitting,
Right.
which can enhance body image issues that were already there, especially when
Mhm.
we might be playing for a team, or we personally can't afford to just buy new uniforms or clothes that fit us as our bodies change. And so
Yeah.
we might be squeezing into a uniform, whether we're in gymnastics or basketball or volleyball or anything like that, that doesn't fit, that's going to kind of emphasize these issues that are already there. And especially nowadays with social media and the comeback of skinny talk, I think is what they call it on TikTok. Whereas my days, it was Thinspiration on Tumblr. Or I thought that was gone, but it has
Yeah.
come roaring back. And
Ugh.
an athlete in any sport who is exposed to that, who starts to believe in those pressures, which as a teenager especially, how can you not when you're
Yeah.
seeing this constantly and reinforced? So we don't see as much of a difference by sport type as kind of we previously thought.
Yeah.
Now, it's still we see more pressure in the sport specifically when it's, more aesthetic or more weight focused, or there's this belief like in, long distance running or any kind of running is like thinner is faster. And
Hmm.
there's that myth where that isn't as prominent in a sport like basketball. But
Okay.
everybody who lives in, especially the society we live in the United States, they're at risk. And then add in
Yeah.
the added pressures of being an athlete and performing and depending on how kind of elite you are, the audience that is also watching you, critiquing
Hmm.
you, no matter what you're wearing or what
Hmm.
you look like, there's going to be that critique online. And so,
Hmm.
yes, that's a complicated way of saying everybody is experiencing these pressures just
Yeah.
to a varying degree. Yeah.
Yeah. I think so too. And when you brought up the social media piece, which I'm not on TikTok and I'm just not going to because
Right.
yeah, I don't even want to see that stuff. Maybe it would help me relate to my clients better, but I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
Um, but it got me realizing one issue, hopefully I'm not diverging from the topic too much, but is the fitness culture and an ideal look of fitness influencers is actually possibly like a quite different thing from
Yeah.
athletes and their body image. But what we see a lot of on social media and clothing brand is a lot of fitness influencers. And maybe they look like an athlete. Maybe they treat themselves like an athlete because they're hitting the gym in a certain way. But that's very different than going to basketball practice,
Mm.
doing weights at 6 a.m. and then practice from, you know, 1 to 4 p.m. It's like that's a very those are very different training and needs and body styles. You know, the fitness influencer whose primary goal is to sculpt their body in a certain way actually isn't the same as a collegiate basketball player or professional basketball player, but we see so much of
Exactly.
that on social media. And so I think that's another piece of this, which is why so many athletes are getting confused. Like, wait, how come I don't look like an athlete? And it's like, well, you're not even comparing yourselves to athletes. And I'm not saying you should be comparing yourself to athletes, but where the social media fitness influencing world is like really making this even more confusing.
Right.
Did that make
And
sense?
yes, it
Yeah.
made sense. And I was also thinking about how, especially, I mean, majority of our competitive athletes are kids, teens, college students. And
Yeah.
so their job, sure, is to be an athlete, but also to be a student.
Yeah.
And maybe, they're also working another job to earn some money, or they have other hobbies.
Yeah.
Whereas what's missed in social media and these highlight reels and the Photoshop and maybe the steroid use and
Hmm.
all of that is forgetting for many of those people, that is their full-time job.
Hmm. It
And
is now. Yeah.
yeah, and I posed the question of that sounds exhausting.
Yeah.
Like even myself, and I do this work and I study this, I have body image judgmental thoughts. I might see a celebrity or fitness influencer online and a thought pops into my head. But
Hmm.
what really helps me is remembering, thank God my job is not dependent on how I look, because
Yeah.
that is so much pressure and so
Yeah.
exhausting and can result in harming your physical health through disordered eating or
Yeah.
steroids or other performance enhancing drugs, as well as impacting mental health and the constant posting and viewing yourself from an outside view versus
Mhm.
inside view. That's what I start thinking about and try
Yeah.
and help others see when that comes up.
Yeah, and I think it's an important distinction for athletes to remember that their job in sport is not actually based on how they look, it's on how they perform.
Right.
And that's he's I think that gets confused a lot
Yes, sir.
in the athletic world that they're thinking, well, I need my body to look this way, weigh this much, have these abs in order to be the best athlete. And it's like, no, it just needs to be able to perform its best. And
Right.
if you pursue performance, we'll see what that looks like. But if you're pursuing a look, that doesn't guarantee performance.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Exactly. And I kind of use the same metaphor of you can have the same training routine and still not play or perform the exact same as a teammate or an
Mhm.
opponent, just
Mhm.
as you could have the same workout and fueling routine and
Mhm.
not look the same as somebody else.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think that's really hard for people to grasp onto and to recognize, also because we don't want to sometimes,
Yeah.
right? Like we want to be able to not take the easy way, but be like, oh, that worked for them. Okay, I want to try that.
No, this is a huge point. I was thinking about this just the other day, and I'm not sure that my thought is fully developed on it, but I'll try. Just that, like, I think people get so sucked into wanting to believe that it can be so simple as changing their workout, changing what they eat, and then they'll
Right.
have the body that they want. And as a culture and a society, we've created that belief
Mhm.
that you're in control of what you look like. Just work out harder, just eat more salads. Oh, you want more muscle, you want to be more toned? Eat 30 grams protein at breakfast. And like, but we actually don't have there's a genetic blueprint in your body. And I don't, as a sports dietitian, and you've got a degree in exercise science as well, I don't want to say that you can't change certain aspects of your body. Just like you can dye your hair pink, there's
Right.
certain things that you can change regarding your health and possibly body size and shape, but not full control. You do not have full control. And there's no one prescription. Eating 30 grams of protein at breakfast doesn't make everybody look the same.
Right.
But yeah, but we hold on to that belief, and it's hard for people to let go of that. It's really hard for people to let go of that.
Right. And
Yeah.
remembering too that even if, emphasis on the if, we do achieve what we wanted in our bodies and how we look or how we're performing, that goal, that ideal is constantly moving.
Mhm.
So I also think about it in the performance context where an athlete's like really struggling with mistakes and failure and never being good enough,
Mhm.
but yet forgetting they've hit all their milestones and goals. And it's because, oh, well, once I reach that goal, I forget about it. I move on to the
Yeah.
next one. And so they're always behind and they're
Yeah.
always failing in that aspect. And it's the same thing chasing body and appearance goals is
Mhm.
we will always be behind in some way because ideals and trends, and I will call it trends, are constantly changing. Yeah.
Yeah, they are, they are. So you and a few other researchers, of course, published an article in 2023, "How Can We Help You? A Global Investigation into Girls' Body Image Experiences in Sport and Intervention Preferences." I thought maybe to wrap up this episode, we could talk about how can we help you? So we're saying body image issues can be in any sport, team, individualized sports. So much of our current culture is highlighting them, and the body image issues are always changing.
Mhm.
which, because that ideal aesthetic or trend is changing, therefore the issues are changing, but they're kind of s- present. There's a
Right.
through line there. They're being present. So, what are some ways that we can try to actually improve body image in sport or in females specifically as well? And I know that this article kind of took the approach of two different angles. One, how you can help the girl themselves or woman themselves, and then also how like coaches and teams and support systems can help. What are maybe just a couple takeaways of where to start with improving body image for female athletes?
Yeah, great question. I I think based on that research and what we've seen in the implementation of body confident sport, which is what this research led to, was the development of this free online accessible tool that anyone can look at,
Okay.
bodyconfidentsport.com, is
Okay.
the first thing we learn, or one of the first things we learn about, is what body talk is and the
Hmm.
harm that can come from it. And
Hmm.
creating body talk free cultures.
Hmm.
And what that doesn't mean is avoiding sharing, our struggles and what we need support on. What it does mean is we're no longer normalizing comments like, "Oh, I hate my thighs," or "I wish I
Hmm.
looked like you," or like, "Oh, you're
Hmm.
looking so skinny today," which I
Hmm.
heard multiple times even last season as a coach, and
Yeah.
trying to denormalize that, challenge those beliefs of where they're coming from, and redirect towards body functionality, which is the appreciation for what our bodies can do for us right now.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I emphasize right now because through some other research that I've been doing through embodiment, is learning that athletes sometimes can take body functionality almost to an extreme, kind of a rigid, like, yeah, I appreciate what my body can do if it's performing well and
Yeah.
if it's doing what I want it to. When in
Yeah.
fact, we want to appreciate what what we're capable of doing right now,
Mhm.
knowing that bodies change, not only day to
Mhm.
day, but across the lifespan, across a sport career. So, kind of summing that up,
That's huge. Yeah.
uh, denormalizing body talk, creating body talk free teams, cultures, and redirecting athletes and ourselves towards appreciating our body functionality right
Mhm.
now in this moment.
In the moment, yeah. And I think the reason that's so key is because I've taught that as well of like appreciate what your body is doing for you or can do for you. And like athletes who are injured really struggle with that.
Yep.
Because they're like, well, I can't do what my body is supposed to do. Or if you're sick or something. But no, appreciate that my body is healing. My
Yep.
body is recovering. My body is still breathing and experiencing
Mhm.
life. Like there's other things. So, yes, I think staying present in the moment, not for what you hope your body would do or whatever, but what it's actually doing right now in the moment. And I think
Right.
that's really, really powerful. And that decreasing the body talk is huge because it actually is, again, those two angles of helping the girl athlete themselves and also how can other people help the girl athlete. It does both. If you can make a commitment, I'm not going to, you know, d- participate in body talk about my own body or others. You're helping yourself in that moment. And if the whole team is in on it, if a coach can encourage that, and sometimes it's as simple as like if you hear it, just say, "Hey, we don't talk about bodies like that."
Exactly.
And or if you receive because sometimes you receive it like that, "Oh, you look so skinny today." Those ones are really challenging because the brain perceives it as a compliment. The person saying it thinks it's a compliment, but it's
Right.
perpetuating body shaming because what
Yep.
about all the other people that you didn't give that comment to? What about if the next day I'm bloated?
Mhm.
What if I get injured and I do gain 5 pounds, right? So it perpetuates body shame by saying that. So even if you receive that comment, it's honestly saying, "Oh, I actually don't appreciate hearing that." Or saying something like that. Those are ways that you can shut down that body talk, and it's really takes effort on both parts, the individual and the culture and the team.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's not easy. Um,
No.
I'll give one example again as a coach and also as a researcher, mental health professional, like trying to implement exactly what I'm talking about and
Yeah.
researching with my team this last season, loved them all to death. It was very hard to implement these
Mhm.
things, but it did get to a point where when those comments were said, like, "You look so skinny today," or I don't even wanna use the slang that they were using
Yeah.
to kind of put somebody down as a joke, of course, is what they say. But
Yeah.
they would look to me and be like, "Did you hear what she just said?" And but in that sense, I'm like, "Th if this is where we get to, that's great," because they're
There's
recognizing
awareness.
there's awareness. We're not supposed to be saying
Mhm.
these things. Oh, and somebody's not okay with it, and if that somebody's me and only me, I'm happy with that because
Mhm.
that's better than nobody. And
Mhm.
hopefully that plants some seeds. So as we get older, we hear more about this, we learn more, we can expand on that rather than starting from nothing.
Yeah, and I think awareness is huge. I think like from a coach's perspective, I'm just gonna take this angle right now. Like just like you
Mhm.
start the season, you might say, "Hey, these are some expectations out of you as athletes. You show up to practice on time. You're wearing you're wearing your practice uniform or whatever it is. Like you're you've eaten lunch. Don't come to practice if you haven't eaten lunch because, you know, whatever." And we don't body shame. Setting like even just like setting expectation to increase awareness at the beginning of a season can be very helpful in starting to change those team culture dynamics.
Right? Right?
Yeah.
And I would even emphasize as we're on the topic too, more kind of systemic changes such as like increasing when possible body diversity
Mhm.
and uniform options. Like we talked about uniforms before, like many girls don't have the option to ask for or receive a larger uniform, a smaller uniform, a differently cut uniform.
Mhm.
So if we're a coach, we're in that leadership position and we're listening in and have the ability to advocate for a wide range of uniforms, practice gear, that alone, being able to wear something that's comfortable can make
Mhm.
such a huge change. And girls won't be as distracted in
Yeah.
practice, in games, because maybe they're pulling on their jersey
Yeah.
or they're trying to pull down their shorts so they're not as tight and riding up, right? So
Mhm.
I would also emphasize those two things of like, we're
Mhm.
not recruiting, we're not hiring based on a look.
Mhm.
And once we have people in our program, we're giving them options as well.
Options. Yeah. Yeah. That's a great point. I with my clients the other day, we were reviewing one of the intuitive eating principles of body respect. And, just we hit on one of the first ways to show more respect for your body is to be comfortable, including like your clothing. Like, don't,
Yep.
try and wear comfortable things that make you feel more comfortable because if things are tight and scratchy and make you self conscious, it's just, they're riding up and it's really hard to respect your body when that's actively happening, right? So if you're in more
Right.
comfortable clothing and as you mentioned, there's nuances with athletes of, well, this is what everybody else is wearing. This is the required uniform, this and that. And so systemic changes in having more options available would be really helpful. And if you're not currently in a place where there are more options, maybe you need to advocate for that.
Yes. Love that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Hannah, what a wonderful conversation. Thank you for all the work you are doing. We're going to list the show notes. You've got some Instagram accounts for both yourself
Yeah.
personally and also the Scotty Sports Psychology. And also, can you just rename the website you just mentioned? Bodyconfidenceinsport.com?
Oh,
Is that it?
bodyconfidentfort.com.
Bodyconfidentsport.com.
Bodyconfidentfort.com. Yes.
Wonderful
Yep.
resource. So thank
Mhm.
you, Hannah, for your time today, this discussion, the research you are actively putting out. So we'll keep looking forward to that. I'll also link the study that we chatted about. Yeah, how can we help with
Yes.
girl body image in girls in sports? So I'll link that in the show notes as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me. This was a great conversation.
Thanks so much for listening, and I really hope you enjoyed that episode. Please help spread the message of empowering female athletes to be fierce, fit, and fueled by giving this podcast a 5-star review and leaving a comment. You can also help more female athletes by sending this episode to a friend. Head to lindseycortez.com for more resources, information, more episodes, ways to work together, downloadable guides, and ebooks. And if you're interested in becoming a guest on the show or have a guest suggestion, head to lindseycortez.com/podcast, and there's a form for you to fill out to get on the show. Hey, there's more resources on my YouTube channel, Female Athlete Nutrition, Instagram at female.athlete.nutrition, and private Facebook group, Female Athlete Nutrition. I think you get the point. I'm here to support female athletes by fueling better and becoming fierce, fit, and fueled. Most importantly, if you need help, reach out. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next show.